Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm just going to be doing a bit of a wrap-up show for the growing season, just to show you what is growing in the garden, and talk about the transition from summer to fall. I don't know about you, but I kind of crawled across the finish line. August just seemed to go by really quickly, and the garden's been doing great, so that's been really nice to see, and a small source of joy in and among the many things going on right now in the world and in our communities. But as you'll see, all my peppers look great. I've been getting tons of those. I did cut down all of this Swiss chard. That continued to grow really well this year. I've cut it all back and mostly have green onions in there. This is a sweet melon plant and a tiny little melon that I grew. This really came out too late in the season to really do much else, and then the plant started to die and get lots of powdery mildew, so I just chopped it all back. And then this is just some of the containers, and looking at, this is a scented geranium, and the herbs are doing great. But you know, it's late summer, so everything is looking a little bit stretched thin and kind of yellowing, and just starting to not look its best, shall we say. So most of what I've been doing in the garden is, aside from trying to keep my winter vegetables growing, is just sort of look at the space that I have, pick up things like nasturtium seeds, still saving seeds right now, and really just get ready for the winter. As things die back, I'm emptying out pots. Most of them now have the winter veggie seeds that I'm going to keep in there. So you'll see in a second, these are the tomatoes that just continue to produce lots and lots and lots. And then I also have some beets and green onions or scallions that I planted a while back. I think the last episode, if you want to call it that, I showed you some of that, and it's coming along really, really nicely. This spot doesn't get a ton of sun during the day, but it's enough to keep these beets growing, apparently. The beet goes on, as it were. The green onions, they look a little droopy. I don't know if they're supposed to do that. They just look like little miniature versions of themselves, but they do seem to be growing okay. The squirrels have not been back to berry too much. And then these are my carrots, my big old bag of carrots blowing in the wind there. They're still growing fine. I've pulled a couple of out just to thin out and see what they look like, and they look like tiny little, tiny minuscule carrots at this point. My peppers are just starting to turn red, and then these are some radishes that are quite far along now. I have caught a squirrel digging in here, or I've caught the aftermath rather, so we'll see how this goes. But the radishes have been growing really well. I did 2 sowings, and then, as I said, lots of tomatoes coming up. These were pink bumblebee tomatoes that I bought this season, and I thought I had originally planted Romas, didn't label anything, and then these are what came out. They're beautiful tasting and looking little tomatoes, so I'm happy. Yeah, I think they look quite smart myself, and I'm trying to think of what else I've been doing in the garden. Here's just a shot of everything growing. This is a little bit more recent, so you can see the tomato plants are looking a little bit worse for wear, but they're still producing tomatoes. I'm probably getting 3 or 4 a day, sometimes more, sometimes less, but still more tomatoes than we really know what to do with. There's the beets again, just to show you some of the progress a few weeks out. So I think you can just see on the tag there, most of the winter veggies I started on August 4th. So pretty late into the season. I know lots of people start things in July, and I just couldn't get my act together. It was a busy summer. And as much as I try to plan things, honestly, a lot of the time I'm just kind of suddenly being like, oh shoot, okay, I've got to plant things right now. This is a bit of the damage from the squirrel digging in there. You can kind of see in the middle of the frame where he got into the radishes. More artful shots of the peppers coming along nicely. But yeah, I like this end of the season. I mean, it's a bit sad to see all of the lush greenery dying away, but you've got your things like these radishes coming in that are providing some greenery, and also will be providing food. Here's some more green onions that I put in the front of one of my tomato plants. So really what I've been thinking about this season in a lot more of a deliberate way is trying to make sure that as I'm taking something out or it's finishing, I'm putting something back in as well to take its place. And in that way, it means that there's always something kind of in season, or maybe having a second bloom and producing more fruit. But really, in terms of planning, and I hope to make more videos about this over the winter, is really thinking ahead about how you can always have something happening in the garden. And in terms of food security and our own personal food production, no matter what scale you're doing it on, planning is of course paramount, and knowing what's, really maximizing your growing season. We're really spoiled where we are in Vancouver, and I mean, we can grow things, 8 to 10 months of the year, but for most people that's not the case. So in all systems and all climates, I think it's really important to be thinking about how do we maximize the growing season that we have, and how do we make sure that we've got sort of succession planting, which just means you're planting things as you go. Every couple of weeks, you're planting more of either the same thing or of different things. I also bought a fig tree. Don't really have a ton of room for it on a patio, but I couldn't resist. You know what it's like when you go to the clearance aisles at the garden centers. Sometimes things just speak to you. But overall, the garden's been looking nice. I've seen lots of bees and butterflies out there. I've been dutifully collecting my nasturtium seeds for next season because those have done really well this year, and they're great for just sort of pulling aphids away from everything. This is looking back a few weeks at the beginning of the radishes and the little green onions. So as you can see, stuff's coming along nicely. We're wrapping up, and definitely I'm feeling the need to start winding down for a bit of rest. So I hope this finds you well, and I hope you get some rest as well soon, because there's a lot going on.